Hello. So this is a super quick post, and I was just wondering if anyone else had a similar experience. When I was growing up, my mom had a lot of babies. I was the firstborn son but second-born child, in case that has any importance. Anyways, without fail, whenever my mom was pregnant, I would see a shadow cross by my window the night before she went into labor. Every time. I have 6 siblings younger than me, 2 of which she had years after I was put into foster care and had no contact with her. If I was asleep, I'd wake up feeling some sort of presence in the room with me. Then seconds later the shadow would pass by the window. Always before midnight. Then sometime the following day my mother would go into labor. I never really thought it that odd, until I had no contact and saw the shadow. Then I'd check my mom's social medias and see she had given birth, both times. The last birth was around when I was 18, I'm 26 now. I've always just had a nagging wonder of what this was. Got attacked by an entity yesterday. I live in an older house in which the people who built it died in, never had anything crazy happen except doors closing, knocks, things like that up until yesterday. It was around 1 to 2 in the afternoon and I was walking down the stairs, and I usually stop and look back up when I get to the bottom, but I didn't, and I had a thought that it may be bad luck or something but ignored it. As I reached the bottom, I heard incredibly loud footsteps running down the stairs and through the hallway at me. I ran towards the door, and as I get to opening it, I was pushed back by an unseen force very aggressively, knocking me to the ground, causing my chest to hurt ever since. Considering nothing like this has ever occurred, I am rather concerned. I'm very careful about what I bring back into my home, but it also seems unlikely that the spirit of the owners would do that, and if they did, why now? And what caused the sudden aggression? Update on past few days. First off, I want to thank everyone in the comments for trying to help. However, I'm Native American and very spiritually aware, so I can handle myself. Second, nothing too serious has occurred over the past few days. However, there is an increasingly dark presence that seems to follow me around, but more stalking than following. I've realized I am dealing with something dark, but it's a coward, so he won't face me head on, but rather play stupid mind games. So I did some sacred things and it has been removed from my home, and the spirits of the owners are alone again. Good evening, fellow Reddit users. My name is Alicia and I've been seeing things since before I can even remember. My first encounter I can remember was when I was 4 and we lived in Wetaskiwin in Alberta. It was late one night. I woke up and my parents were having a small party in the living room. We had just moved in and didn't even have furniture yet, so everyone was sitting on the floor. I woke up and found my mom and sat with her. I was always scared to use the bathroom by myself, my mom said, so I was bugging her to come with me. She was busy talking with her friends, so she told me to go by myself, and she said she will watch me from where she was sitting and she will make sure nobody goes in the washroom. I agreed. I really had to go. I remember sitting there in the washroom when all of a sudden this little girl's older than me, black hair up to her shoulders, comes from the bedroom area and stands in the hallway right where I can see her, and I immediately thought it was my sister Rachel, so I began to ask her, "Where did you come from? When did you get here? I thought you were in Saskatchewan?" But she doesn't respond. She just stares at me with this little grin on her face. Again I ask her, "When did you get here? Does mom know you are here?" Nothing. I began to feel uneasy and afraid, so I began to yell and scream for my mom. This is the part of my story I really think I got PTSD from. My mom pops her head in the door frame and asks me why I'm yelling and screaming for her. All the while this little girl is staring at me, still leaning up against the wall outside of the washroom. "Mom, it's Rachel. She's scaring me." I keep asking her things and she won't talk to me. And my mom says, "What? Rachel? Rachel is in Saskatchewan?" "No mom, she's right there, standing beside you." My mom looks right at her, then back to me, and she says, "What are you talking about? There's no one there." I begin to cry and tell her who I see. My mom says this is where she begins to feel uneasy, so she helps me off of the toilet and helps me wash my hands. By the time we are done, the little girl is gone. I'll never forget that for as long as I will live. To the FBI agent watching me, hey there old friend. You've been with me a long time, haven't you? Years lurking in the background of my questionable Google searches, raising an eyebrow at my late-night rabbit holes on obscure 14th century poisons. Through the late-night deep dives into obscure historical rebellions and how it applies to modern times. You've seen my searches for how much blood loss is fatal for research, of course, and the strangely specific questions about decommissioned Cold War surveillance equipment. You've likewise seen the questionable Netflix cues, the back and forth between cat videos and political philosophy. And let's not forget my bad decisions, impulsive purchases, and bizarre hyperfixations. Maybe over time, you've even started to understand me. And now, I want to say something that maybe you never expected to hear from someone on this side of the screen. We see you too. We see the long hours, the quiet sacrifices, and the knowledge you carry, that few will ever understand. We see the moments where you do the right thing, knowing no one will ever thank you for it. We see the weight of duty, of honor, of choices made in rooms where no one will ever know your name. We won't pretend we're the same. We have no idea what it's like to infiltrate a cartel or stop a terrorist. We don't know what it feels like to be in a job where no one ever really sees you. Where your victories are uncelebrated and your failures make headlines. And now, we see your fear. That after all of that, after all your long hours and sacrifice, you might be cast aside. That for doing what you were trained to do, for following the rules you were sworn to uphold, you might be left without protection and purpose, without a place in the system that once relied on you. But here's the thing, it was never the system that gave you power. It wasn't the agency, the batch, or government, those were but tools. The real power, the thing that made you whole came from us. The people. The ones you swore to protect, the ones who, whether you knew it or not, believed in you. So if they cut you loose, they decide that your years of quiet service make you disposable. Don't mistake that for the people rejecting you. You were never just an extension of an institution. You were always a person first. A neighbor, a coach, a friend. And maybe now, without the weight of orders and bureaucracy pressing down on you, we can finally talk. Because we're here and need you. Not as an enforces, but as a guide. You spent your career watching, listening, gathering information. You know things we don't. You've seen how the machine works from the inside. I have no idea what to make of my experience. I live out west in America. Rural town. For the past 6 to 8 months, every single night when I go to bed, I hear my people speaking. At times it is my family's voices. Other times it sounds like old men talking. Other times a small group, unknown voices, chatting. But most of the time it is the exact sounds of my family. I am a mama and know my kids' voices better than they do. I've also been married 19 years and know my husband's voice well. Every night when I hit my pillow, it's a chatterbox in my home, low but audible. I hear it in the room over, downstairs, the porch outside my window, etc. I thought, maybe my kids are talking in their sleep, so I would tiptoe into their room only to hear it silent. I finally caught the voices while looking at my kids, so I absolutely know it isn't them sleep talking. Also, my father-in-law stayed with us this past summer, and that night I heard his voice. But it wasn't him. Oftentimes it sounds like people are on my porch out front chatting, but we live in a tiny town and I can confidently say it isn't possible for it to be people chatting next door or somewhere close. It's so odd. It's every night. I have to turn a fan app on and super loud to finally go to sleep. I have been through a ton with our family, 2.5 years total in ICU with my kids, so I am mentally tough as hell. So it's not making me feel wacky, just a huge conundrum and inconvenience. I am just so perplexed by what this could be. Note: I personally am a believer, so I do pray aloud often when this is happening at night. I'm just trying to think of every detail to share with you all. Is any else's meds ruining their life? I've been taking 700 mgs of quizapine and it's been absolutely destroying me. I've been sleeping all day, sometimes up to 24, have no energy to do anything, and have put on at least 25 pounds and have no memory along with brain fog. I just want to be normal. Have the energy to get a job, work out and do things that I enjoy like writing. But it seems like with these meds it'll be impossible. Does anyone else feel the same way? I'm from New Mexico and last year I was hanging out at a park by the river with a friend at night. I should have known better considering I grew up with the story of La Llorona, but I figured that since I'd been there multiple times at night that it would be fine. We got the park around 10:30 p.m. A few things to note about this park is that you have to park on the other side of a highway and walk underneath the overpass to get to the playground, as well as that the parking lot, path to playground and playground itself are all directly on the river bank. When we got to the playground it was silent, calm, and for a while it was exactly like every time I'd been there before. About 30 minutes later we heard wailing and a loud scream of a dame that sounded like it was less than 50 feet away. Immediately I looked at the overpass, and underneath I saw a figure dressed in white run into the water. Both my friend and I were frozen in fear. We decided to head back to the car, and instead of going back under the overpass we ran across the highway. Luckily, since this highway is pretty rural, and it was late at night, there were no cars and we got out of there as fast as we could. To this day I have not returned at night and I don't think I ever will. I visited psych ward again yesterday. Like 1 year ago they said it's psychosis, anhedonia, and schizophrenia. Now yesterday they have given me a new label which is second impact syndrome, SIS symptoms, and given me new meds which is trifluoperazine and trihexyphenidy and lurecidone. My psychiatrist is head of the hospital and he gave up on me. He said he can't help me anymore. Also referred me to his professor. I'm questioning my existence. I am paranoid and I don't want to live like this anymore. I wish I die in my sleep. I don't want to live like this for another 20 to 30 years like those. My mom and sister wants me to be dead too. Sad face. I'm just venting out. I have suffered with sleep paralysis since I was a child. Throughout all my years of dealing with this, I have had some truly horrific experiences. However, the one I had a couple of days ago has been the worst one yet. I woke up not feeling the greatest. I was up a few hours and after not feeling much better, I decided to lay back down and try to nap it off. I was turned on my side facing away from our bedroom door on the far side of mine and my husband's king-sized bed. I felt my body relax and I fell asleep rather quickly. Next thing I remember is slowly opening my eyes and seeing our bedroom wall and the door that leads to our bathroom, as the bathroom door was closed. I then tried to move and couldn't. As I've been through this many times, I was already mentally telling myself I was in sleep paralysis and I needed to focus on trying to move a little, such as wiggling my fingers, a tip I learned online. However, I'm already feeling scared and I can feel my heart racing. I then hear the sound of our bedroom door open and close behind me as our bedroom door makes a very loud and distinct popping noise. I immediately thought it was my husband coming in to check on me and thought he'd be able to get me to snap out of this horror. That thought quickly vanished as I heard heavy stomping running around the bed until they stopped directly in front of me and I see a very large and tall black figure standing in front of our bathroom door. This is the same figure I encounter in almost all of my sleep paralysis experiences. I can never make out any features. Before I can register any other thoughts, the large figure lunges at me. I feel the heavy weight of this thing on my body and it feels like it's crushing me. Especially in my ribs. As previously mentioned, I'm still laid on my side with both my arms pulled up and my hands are tucked under my pillow. By now, I've closed my eyes and I'm trying so desperately to move. That's when I felt teeth burying into my ribs. I don't know how to truly describe the awful feeling. It's an intense feeling of pressure, pain, and almost a tickling sensation, and it's one of the worst things I've ever felt. At this point, I'm trying to thrash away and trying to scream, but I'm still completely paralyzed and I feel like I have no air left in me and I never am able to make a sound. I can literally feel this thing's mouth opening and closing in different spots along the side of my ribs. At this point, I'm mentally screaming and pleading to snap out of it. Next thing I know, I sit straight up in the bed. My heart is racing, I'm broke out in a cold sweat and I can still feel tingles in my ribs on my left side. After my eyes dart around the room and I find it to be completely empty, I lift up my shirt to inspect my side. The skin is not broken, but the whole left side of my rib cage is bright red. I've done a good amount of research on sleep paralysis and I understand the scientific explanation for it, but waking up with physical marks from these experiences is brand new to me. I have had a ton of anxiety when it's bedtime ever since this experience. I find it a bit hard to believe there's nothing evil or demonic about these sleep attacks. I'm not sure how to even begin this, but what's been happening in my house lately has me terrified. A few weeks ago, my neighbor, Greg, was found dead in his apartment. The police ruled it as a murder, and the whole building was shaken up. He wasn't exactly a friendly guy, but he kept to himself and never caused any trouble. I didn't know him well, but it was hard not to be disturbed by the news. The worst part was that the crime was pretty brutal, and there were rumors about strange noises coming from his place before it happened. Since then, things have gotten odd. Around 2 a.m. every night, I hear faint knocking on my door. It's always a slow, deliberate tap, 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 like someone's just standing there. At first, I thought it was just the building settling, but it's been happening every night for the past 2 weeks. The creepiest thing? Last night, I swear I heard someone whispering my name from the hallway. I opened the door, thinking it might be someone playing a prank, but no one was there. The kicker? I'm pretty sure I saw Greg's figure in the reflection of my window a few days ago. He was standing in the hallway, looking directly at me. I froze. When I turned around, the hallway was completely empty. I don't know what to think. Is it my mind playing tricks on me? Or could something be following me from Greg's death? Has anyone experienced something like this? I'm scared to even sleep at this point.
Are you a targeted individual? Have you had a paranormal encounter, or are the victim of an unregulated government experiment and would like to share your story with us? Would you like to send us some fan mail or a hate-filled rant? Do you have an idea for a future episode or wish to send a complaint to HR? Email us at atomicshamanSweatlodge@protonmail.com. Like, share, subscribe and be sure to check the notification bell. Follow the Atomic Shaman on Twitter at Motel and RV Park. Listen to Paranormal Green Text Stories on Atomic Shaman TTS on YouTube. Catch the live streams of Atomic Shaman Sweat Lodge only on Rumble.